As you heard, for the past several years, I have teamed up with my colleague Brian Ritchie, who you're going to hear from this afternoon, to lead a group of talented college students in addressing the question of how to better foster an innovative and entrepreneurial Michigan today. It's a privilege to work with these students. And the most amazing thing has been to see their movement from an academic exercise, like that question that was asked, to a personal engagement in the issues of innovation and entrepreneurship in Michigan. Throughout the course of our conversations with some of you, policymakers, members of our community, etc., I've several times stepped back and thought about the language that we use today to talk about innovation. Let me give you a little sample of what I've heard. I've heard policymakers tell us that we need to optimize our innovation system, which means improving and expanding our knowledge-based resources and encouraging our universities and the private sector to streamline its innovation processes to make it more efficient and increase the probability of commercial success. I've also heard many of us talk about incentivizing innovation, usually on the assumption that there's not enough innovation happening in our society, or that the kind of innovation that people are doing is the kind that for some reason we would like to see steered in a different direction. As I thought about this language, I realized that it was a language that comes from a particular place. Whoops, wrong direction, sorry. Okay. There we go. It's the language of economics. Now, you would think that I would be happy about this use of the language of economics because I'm an economist. And in fact, I've gone through what you could call the Economics Language Immersion program, otherwise known as a PhD. And so I think that economics can tell us a whole lot about life. But life is not all economics. And in fact, innovation is something that economics has done a really bad job of explaining over its history. It's a realm of human experience that economics has always had to twist in some way to be able to try to capture it with the language that economists use. As I thought about this, I realized that there are other realms of human experience that economics similarly has to twist a bit to capture its reality. And one of those is the realm of the human experience of love. And I mean love in all of its forms, from intimate relationships to friendships and family, to our engagements in communities, to the charitable work we do, and all the ways in which we give of ourselves to other people. So I thought I would think about maybe there being a bond or connection between innovation and love. If these are both things that economics seems to have trouble with, maybe there are others who've thought about this. So I did a search on the internet, like we all would, jumped on, searched for innovate or innovation and love, and 22 million hits later, I was a little bit overwhelmed. So I narrowed my search. I took the last 4 months, and I looked in particular at how websites use the word love and the word innovate or innovation together. And as you might expect, what I found for the most part was that people talked about innovations that they love. You see a whole bunch of them on there. Some people talked about things they'd love to hear about, and a few people talked about things they'd love to see. In fact, and this I really didn't see this sample, there were a couple people who said they would love to see TEDx come to their town. Okay? Well, they may not get TEDx in their town, but their comment made it into a TEDx talk. Okay? So there we go. But none of these talked about innovation and love in the kind of way which I was thinking I would want to talk about it. And that is to think about innovation itself as an act of love. What would it mean to think about innovation as an act of love? The question that's driven my entire investigation was the one that was at the screen at the very beginning, the question, what makes for an innovative society? And I realized as I thought about this that I could turn that question around, and it might help me think about innovation as an act of love. And so I asked this question: what makes for a society in which people can express love to others? My suspicion is that when you thought about that question, you did not think about optimizing a love system or rationalizing love processes to make them more efficient and to increase their commercial success. And I sure don't think that you thought that we need to incentivize love, because this is something that we all do. We all engage in love in a variety of ways, in all of its forms, throughout our entire lives. If everybody loves, does everybody innovate? Well, when we think of innovation as something that happens when special people do special things in special places, that's a problem. But if we think about living in a society which engages us constantly in the interactions around innovation, then maybe we see innovation in a different way. Maybe we realize, as has been mentioned several times already today, that failure and mistakes happen and are part of our innovation life. In fact, as I thought about it, I realized that the language that and advice we give to our young people as they encounter the world of love, right, is somewhat similar to the language we use for entrepreneurial startups. We tell them to fail fast, learn from their mistakes, assess their strengths and weaknesses, and move on. I realized that the heart of a society which fosters love is a whole informal network of community relationships, networks, personal connections, which provide opportunities for you to participate in the world of love. My argument is that that is also what lies at the heart of a society which fosters innovation. Let me return to my students for a minute. This year's group of students that we worked with decided to focus on the question of how we attract and retain university students in Michigan. And they, among other things, surveyed their peers about their willingness to live in Michigan. One of the results from that survey that surprised us was that of the people who said that they were interested in staying in Michigan, almost 2/3 of them said that they would consider starting their own enterprise sometime over the next while. We thought that was pretty significant. So we also asked those people, if you're interested in starting a business or enterprise over the next while, what would be the most important things that would help you to do that, to encourage you to do that? The students' response was not a set of tax incentives. Neither was it paying off their student loans, but instead, participation in an entrepreneurial community. As I thought about that response, I realized that the university students that we have around us, we're on a campus of 45,000 of them, that they are as young in their growth into a society that loves each other as they are into a society that allows people to innovate together, and that they need help along the way. So I have a question for you. When was the last time you called or texted a university student and invited them to come to your young professional group? I'm actually tempted to pull John Hill's trick and tell you that right now to text somebody or tweet somebody and say, hey, come with me to the Tavern on the Square tonight, and let me introduce you to some people. When was the last time you called a university student and said, look, I have a few entrepreneurs I'd like you to meet up with. I think that they're passionate about things that you're passionate about, and I'd like to see you engage with them. Love doesn't conquer the world by incentives, systems, and even legislation. It conquers the world one relationship at a time, one network at a time, one community at a time. I believe the same is true about innovation. Thank you very much.